As I've been preparing to release my new book, Sell Like a Lady: How to Master Sales with Dignity, Class, and Grace, the conversation around what's really holding you back as it relates to having sales conversations is a prevalent one. I'm Dr. Nadia, founder of the Doyen Agency and creator of Straight Talk About Sales with Dr. Nadia. Tune in as we talk about what's really holding you back. In my work as a leadership trainer and consultant, doing sales training and consulting, I can tell you there are definitely some similarities in the things that I have seen as it relates to women and what's really holding them back. And as we're preparing to release my new book, it has just definitely been one of those conversations that's been quite prevalent in terms of what's really holding you back. Recently, I even shared with my newsletter list some of the things where I felt that I was even holding back or playing smaller or shrinking back because it's just uncomfortable when you start to be stretched outside of your comfort zone. And today on the podcast, I just wanted to share some of the things or trends that I've seen, particularly as it relates to sales and sales conversations with women service-based business owners, where it can be a little icky or feel a little weird. And so what's really holding you back? What's holding you back? And then how do you move past that so that you can grow your business, so that you can really connect with your ideal clients and have the impact that you desire to have? So the first thing that I've noticed is lack of clarity. So in conversations, sometimes it'll come up like I'm procrastinating, I'm not doing these things, and it's interpreted with procrastination that you're procrastinating because you're lazy or you just don't have the chutzpah, right, to do it or whatever, right? The things that people say. That is sometimes true. However, what I often find is more true is that there's a lack of clarity. So you're not taking this action because something isn't quite clear yet. Like there's still something that isn't quite right. You don't quite understand. It's not quite flushed out enough to where you feel that confidence to like, okay, I'm going out there and doing it. Hence, you procrastinate. Sometimes you know what that is, sometimes you don't. That's why it's important to have your community, your people that you can go to, you can talk these things out and work through the cobwebs. And so two of the things I'll share that are top when it comes to sales and having sales conversations is that many times it's a lack of clarity around what you are selling. So what are you selling? And you're like, really, Dr. Nadia? Like, seriously, I don't know what I'm selling. But you would be surprised, like the details around it, really understanding, are you firm on the investment, right? Are you firm on the pricing? Are you clear about all of the things that you want to include? Because some of those, sometimes it's like, I know that I can take imperfect action, but sometimes when we don't have certain details, depending on our personality, those little details that seem minor to someone else are huge to us. So what are the minimum details that you need, particularly if it's new, to get out there and start having those conversations and to see like how might we tweak this moving forward? The other thing that is often not 100% clear and why you might be holding back are the benefits or the value that your program or service provides, right? So when you're having sales conversations, people want to know like, what's in it for me? How am I going to be different as a result of this? Why should I invest in this? Why should I invest in this now? And if you're not 100% sure how to answer that question, then you're like, I don't know. So if it's not clear, that lack of clarity often will hold you back. So what I suggest is, again, taking a moment to write it down and what are some testimonials or feedback clients have given you? Whether even if this is a new one, what are some other feedback that people have given you in your work? And if you're like, Dr. Nadia, I'm new to all of this, then what type of information can you borrow from others? So when I say borrow, I'm not saying go out and plagiarize or steal. But what I am saying, for example, if you're a new coach you're just starting to work with clients, there's statistics out there from reputable organizations that can demonstrate and help you discuss the value of coaching, right? Even though you don't necessarily yet, you're new, have your own personal testimonials around it, but you can still share that information to help someone understand the value that they could glean by working with you. Okay. And so it's really important that we take a moment to just get clarity around how we're going to do that. And I have found that taking a moment to actually write it down longhand, like old school, to help me kind of work through those things gives me enough clarity to then get in action and not continue to shrink back. The next one is lack of confidence. So when it comes to sales, one of the big ones, like almost number one, is just a fear of rejection. Like no one likes to be rejected. And it's funny because I share that story or often or that analogy. And I'm like, I do sales. I have lots of sales conversations, whether it's on my behalf or on behalf of my clients. And never in my entire life, or even the years that I've been doing this, have I ever gotten out of bed and was like, oh, I cannot wait to be rejected today. No one likes it. And yet, is par for the course, right? Like not everyone is going to say yes today in that initial conversation. And sometimes it sucks. There are days when it's like, okay, par for the course, whatever. And there are other days when I take it a little more personal. So I recommend one, taking baby steps, but two, also taking a moment to think through like, how am I going to care for me? Make sure that I keep my tank full so that rejections in sales conversations don't take me out. I remember years ago when I first started in business, a no in a sales conversation, it felt like such a huge rejection, such a huge letdown. Like I had so many stories around these sales conversations. I put so much pressure on myself to get it just right. Like there was a whole lot, not even just a rejection. Like I took it to the next level, and it would just take me a long time to get back in it. Like I don't want to do that again. Now it's like, girl, come on, pull yourself together. You get back in it tomorrow, right? So what are the things that you need to do to care for yourself, to make sure that you don't allow these things, which is a natural part of the process, to take you completely out? You got to stay in it, but you also have to take care of yourself. So I'm not saying to just to not take care of yourself, to not make your self-care a priority. What I am saying is put a care plan in place so that when these things happen, you're like, okay, I need a moment. I'm going to get my massage. I have my girlfriend or whomever I'm going to call. I'm going to call my coach or mentor, whoever, so that, they can hype me up. I got my playlist, right? Like there are all these things that sometimes we have to do to psych ourselves up to do the things that we are not necessarily feeling very confident in doing until we go through that process and build up our confidence muscle. So going through that process, and I know when I was going through my own process and really mastering this, that was what I had to do. And it wasn't until I was just having conversations, really giving myself that practice time. And I noticed that recovery rebound process got shorter and shorter and shorter. But even to this day, there are some days and I'm like, oh girl, that was rough, right? Like I just need a little extra care to make sure that I'm filled up so that I have the confidence to keep going. And then the last thing I've noticed when it comes to shrinking back or what's holding you back is just a lack of preparation. Like you're just not prepared to have the conversation. And that could be related to lack of clarity. It could be related to lack of confidence, or it just could be related to like the skills, right? Like what are the things that you need, whether it's on your computer, your tablet, your phone, your desk, you internally, that you need to just be prepared to have sales conversations? Is it practice? Do you need to practice with a peer or a coach? Do you need to take time and write it out? I don't recommend scripts. That's a whole nother conversation for another day. However, I work with clients to create a conversation guide. One of the things I love about conversation guides is it has that high level flow. It allows you the flexibility to talk to the person right in front of you. So you're not like you don't sound robotic, right? Like I get to have an actual conversation, but it guides you on here are the things I need to remember to include in this conversation because we are having a sales conversation. So do you need one of those? Do you need to have your testimonials, your client results nearby or pulled up so you remember? Like sometimes even when we've done this for years, we forget. We forget the things that we have done to help others, and you will be surprised even myself, right? It's like, oh yeah, I forgot. I forgot that I worked with this client and they got this amazing result. Sometimes it pops up in conversations, sometimes it doesn't. That's why I recommend having it because it's just that reminder. Oh, yeah, let me share that story because I remember that one time when, right? And so just having that information available, or even like I mentioned earlier, industry statistics. Like, when was the last time you looked at what's going on in your industry and how can you leverage that information in your sales conversations and really helping your prospects understand the value that you provide. And so don't allow these things to hold you back from going out there and having those sales conversations, okay? Like your people need you. They're looking for you, but they also need you during the conversation to guide them and to help them connect the dots. They're coming to the table with their own stuff and they have not been thinking about your offer. They have not created your offer. So they are not as intimately involved in understanding all the intricate details as you are. So your job is to help them connect those dots. Okay. Cool. Great. So take those notes: lack of clarity, lack of confidence, lack of preparation. Do what you need to do to get that clarity, confidence, and be prepared to have those sales conversations. And I want you to go out there to have those powerful sales conversations. And I want you to sell like a lady. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Straight Talk About Sales with Dr. Nadia. I'll see you again soon.